Closing beat, everybody. Happy Tuesday. How you doing out there? Did you have a good day? Welcome to our show. We call it the Closing Beat in reference to our name, Jazz Wealth Managers. We talk about the stock market here, go over the good, the bad, and the ugly. A lot going on today, so we got a lot to cover. We're also going to cover some of our Stock Madness picks as well, because it's our first week of doing this. If you haven't seen that already, on our YouTube channel there, we're playing a weekend sort of series on Saturdays. We'll update you on how things are going. We're essentially taking March Madness, replacing basketball teams with stock teams, or stock picks, and going through some of the reasons why we picked those, pitting them against each other, having a little competition. And I still don't know what the prize is at the end, but I'm told it's pretty cool. So we'll see. Check that out. We'll cover some of that as we go. We're also playing a game called Guess the Dow, jazzwealth.com/guess the Dow. Last week, we had the most amount of guests ever on the record of the game. So let's see what happens there. You guys are taking your shot. If you're closest without going over, we'll send you a $100 gift card. There's no gimmick or anything. You're just welcome to play. You don't have to be a customer to play if you don't want to, or if you want to. George Duke is our jazz artist of the week. He's got a song with Al Jarreau called Roof Garden. It's really kind of a cool, funky song. Al Jarreau, man, it's an interesting way he kind of scats through that. It's just impressive if you've ever tried to do that. I've tried in the shower, and I can't do it like he does. But anyways, that's that. Hey, stock markets today. We've got 2,093 points on the Dow. Did you happen to catch that? 209 points on the S&P and 557 on the NASDAQ. Anybody a little upset by that? I don't know. I was kind of like, oh. I thought we go a little lower. I don't know. I was getting all excited about the downturn there. I'm sort of upset that we went higher today, but I know some of you have been looking for that. You've been picking your positions, trying to, pick a little bottom there, averaging in and everything. I love it. So we'll see what happens. Hey, only 24% left to go. If you're playing along, you want the markets to bounce. We're 10% higher basically on the day for the S&P. Today was one of those days, if you wanted to put a title to it, you could call it light at the end of the tunnel, question mark, right? That's what's going on there. People were pretty much excited about the hopes for government stimulus. And so you got that going out there. Also, you're starting to see some positivity in the virus numbers, actually. Not necessarily that there's a downtick in the number of new cases, but what's happening is now we're getting more accurate data on the number of tests that people have taken. That number is obviously skyrocketing, but the number of people taking, or the percentage of people that have the virus versus the number of people taking tests, well, that's flatlined and starting to turn a little bit lower. And so because of that, you had some excitement there. If you look at the S&P 500 today, you've got half of the S&P 500 today was a 10% or higher. Double-digit gains or more. Over 250 stocks were higher by 10% or more. That is impressive. That's an entire year's worth of gains in one day, both for a lot of stocks and, of course, the indices as well. 41 stocks in the S&P were higher by 20% or more. You don't see that often. You notice how I don't point that kind of stuff out? It's because you don't actually see it. That's pretty interesting there. If you're looking at the S&P here on the charts, you can see the impressive rebound today. I don't know if this is the bottom. It's certainly a bottom here in the short term, but we'll see what happens. Obviously, if the stimulus thing delays itself, we know, and you know from watching, in one day, we could certainly erase everything that we just did today. So I would say the moral of the story today is light at the end of the tunnel, question mark? I don't know. Are we there? Now, what was interesting about today is money came out of a lot of things that were doing well. Your Walmarts, Kroger's, Costco's, Gilead Sciences, Regeneron, things like that, and it went into more aggressive plays or highly discounted positions. We'll cover that, but we haven't seen that lately. It's something new that sticks out here in the market. I've been slowly pointing out, we'll call them changes, right? Just little changes that you notice where you see, okay, people have been trying to sort of pick the bottom here in a more meaningful way. And those changes continue today, obviously, and have been helped the rally to kind of see what you saw today. And with that, you've got the NASDAQ outperforming the S&P 500, Dow being the weakest. Now, the Russell is starting to turn the corner here. I'm going to go over here. We'll come back to that in a second. Let's take a look at the Russell on the charts here. If I can pull this up, give you guys something a little more where you can see clearer. Here you go. So here is the four major indices on the chart: S&P, Russell, NASDAQ, and the Dow. They all have their own colored lines you can see up there at the top. And what you saw over the last little bit here, since really the start of this downturn, the Russell has been outperforming to the downside, right? So if you're a Russell player or you like that sort of small cap exposure, they're going to get hit the hardest. They're the hardest to get hit. They're the first to recover, or the first to start to recover. Well, what you see here today, the orange line is the Russell all the way down here. Naturally, it's been hit the hardest. Start zooming in a little bit. You can see the Russell still hit the hardest, by far the worst performing index out of the group. However, over the last 5 days, notice the change here. Here's your Russell starting to recover, not falling as much in the short term. And this week so far, the Russell outperforming. So people willing to go back to small caps, which is sort of a sign of people maybe not accurately, but thinking that this is not going to be a recession, that the economy is going to recover, and small cap stocks will largely be okay. So the Russell 2000, by far the most oversold out of the group, and they are, of course, recovering here in a short term. That's kind of interesting. I don't know if that's meaningful at this point. It's just one of those little changes you want to keep an eye on. If you go back and watch like the last 4 days of the closing beat, I've been pointing out all these little changes, stuff that's way oversold, way underpriced, the number of stocks that have been halted to the upside. There was actually a lot more today. Those things sort of give you clues as to, all right, we're in the range of a bottom, so you have that there. Now, this is only 1 day up, right? We go back over to the charts here. That's only 1 day up. That doesn't really mean anything, because you look back and you go, well, the last time we went up, we fell immediately. The second to last time we went up, we fell immediately. The third to last time we went up, for just 1 day, we fell immediately. So the question is, can we put 2 days together in a row? Today was good. We closed at highs, right? So if we'd have just had a strong start and then faded away throughout the day, that we've seen, that doesn't work. That's not a good sign. Today we closed at the highs. If tomorrow we can show any sign of positivity, what's going to happen? You're going to get people that fear they're missing out on this bottom. All of a sudden, the tide's going to change. Everybody's been asking me, where is the bottom? Should I average in more? And now all of a sudden, as we get higher, people are going to go, did I miss the bottom? Oh my gosh, am I going to be able to get this? So imagine that emotion that you're probably feeling times 100 million, right? The participants in the market, they're all going, oh no, I guess I better buy. If we have a strong day tomorrow, that starts to get people feeling like, I better buy, right? And so that sort of emotion may help to put a little rally together. We'll see what happens here. Here's what we've got. I want to go back to this real quick. We'll pull this up. The VIX. All right, here's something interesting. I'm going to show this to you on our charts here just to show you the performance. I'm going to show you some of the data here. So if we look at the VIX had its best 6-day stretch ever. That's not really good. That means when the VIX goes up, the markets go down generally. So the VIX had its best 6-day gain ever. That means it was the worst 6 days in the market, just really nasty. It has now had its worst 6 days ever. So it had its best 6 days up and its worst 6 days down. You can see by the chart here, obviously, it is quite amazing. There's only one other time in history that that's happened. Did you know that? Leave it to us to spot that. There's only one other time in history that that's happened. Let's bring this in so you can see what's going on here. Here is November 4th, 2008. This was the last time where the VIX shot up as much as it did for a 6-day period, or had its best 6-day gain, and then had its worst 6-day gain just after that. I don't know that this matters to you guys. It's just something interesting we could point out. I've circled right on the chart exactly when that happened, which is the equivalent of right now. That today would be the day. So last time that happened, November 4th, 2008. What I want you to notice is the markets were obviously sharply higher after having an amazing drop. So people felt like, oh, maybe that's the bottom. Turned out not to be the bottom, in fact, and the stock market fell an additional 15%. So if we're using one data point, and nobody's going to use one data point, it's just something to look at, we would have to say there's a probability that we certainly could head lower. The stock market actually didn't bottom for another 4 months, so we fell 15% over 4 months before finally recovering there. Just some interesting stats to share with you on the day. Let's go over to the S&P. Some of your strong stocks out of the group. Going to be Limited Brands. 39% halted on the way up. There's a company that's reportedly taken a stake in Limited Brands, 5%, something like that. Stock higher by essentially 40% and halted. You've got Norwegian Cruise Lines, obviously a popular one throughout this crisis here. 42% to the upside. Stock was halted along the way. DXC Tech, you got 41% to the upside. These are amazing moves to see. And if you have the ability to sort of detach your emotion a little bit, just watching this is fascinating. I mean, this is history that people will talk about for literally hundreds of years. Like we go back and we talk about the Great Depression. This is that kind of activity, and this is something people don't really talk about. I get it, we've got other concerns, but this is interesting history happening right now. I'm watching every second of it. Anyways, DXC halted on the way up 41%. And I saw American Airlines was higher, 35% on the day. Strong bounce there. It's really just the hopes of the stimulus coming out there. Again, the weakness to the downside in the S&P is going to be things that were strong over the last couple days that have now started to pull back. You've got Walmart up 0.6% on the day. It was down most of the day, but you got names like Kroger. Kroger losing 3% on the day. Did well at the beginning of this sort of thing, starting to fade away towards the end of this here. You got Netflix, right? Getting a lot of attention. Hey, people are going to watch Netflix. Well, that saw some weakness today. Money came out of that, what would have been a profitable short-term trade, and moved into other areas. Clorox obviously had a massive spike higher there. That pulled back as well. All right, let's do our sector breakdown for the day. I'm working on a whole new look for the old closing beat here. So really, really interesting stuff and a lot of automated stuff coming up that we're working on, getting a little bit geeky there. If we look at the overall sectors for the day, every single sector was higher. Almost all of them were higher by double digits. That is impressive. Banks, let's start with banks, up double digits on the day, 12.4%. If you want the markets to rally, you got to have the banks. It also helps if the banks outpace the general performance of the market. That did happen today. Many of the names were up by double digits. We look at JP Morgan. This happens to be one of my picks for the old Stock Madness. If you want to go back on our YouTube channel, check out Stock Madness. It's one of my picks for the financial sector, up 12% today. That's really good. I mean, obviously, it's a good day for that one. Citigroup up 14%, and over the week so far, it's beating my JP Morgan. I kind of hope JP Morgan wins, but in our Stock Madness, my pick, Citigroup against JP Morgan. We'll see how it goes. It's got 2 weeks of performance to see what happens there. You also got names like, come on, American Express, strong day today, 21%. That is Cody's pick in the financial space. And he's also got Berkshire Hathaway. American Express is blowing away his other pick. That's good. I think he wants American Express to go there. Let's talk about Discover Financial, 26% higher on the day. We've talked about this a few times, being way oversold. I made the reference to the Shark Tank sort of thing with United Airlines and Discovery, things like that. So in the financial space, those are some of the names that really helped you out today. Looked really, really good. Go over to the tech space. You got tech higher by double digits, 10%. Some of the names that stand out, Visa, 13% higher. Quick, sharp recovery, nearly recovering the last 2 days. That's impressive, right? Or how it rallied, very impressive. MasterCard also recovering the last 2 days. When you look at other stocks or you look at other areas of the market and you see that they recovered like part of yesterday, but not quite all of it. This is interesting. These two stand out, in my opinion, there in the tech space. It's fintech, really. PayPal stands out in the space as well, erasing all of the last 4 days, just today with that 14% gain. So that one standing out as something rather interesting. We look over to the transportation sector. Did well today, 13% higher. It was basically a broad rally across the spectrum there. But you had your names in the airline space that did really well and really stood out. Like I said, American Airlines, hitting 35%, JetBlue 37% on the day, United Airlines with a 25% gain on the day, severely oversold, by the way, and so that sector looking good. Consumer staples was the only sector not to gain at least 5%. It was just under 5% for the day. We'll use the XLP to check that out, and so we'll just call it 5% on the day. Again, money coming out of areas that were working and going more back into risk. Just a touch of that risk-on sort of approach today. Looking over at retail, there you go. You got a bounce in retail, double digits, 10%, still down 37% from the highs. Got a long way to go, man. TJ Maxx stands out with 11% gain there. You got Grubhub, there you go. Grubhub 15% to the upside, and Casey's General Stores. If you start going up towards the Midwest, those are your gas stations up there. One of my fondest memories, actually, is being in old Sioux City, Iowa, visiting the Casey General Stores and getting to pick out whatever piece of candy I wanted. And that's where my candy addiction started. Thank you, Grandma Sally. So that's what we have there. Going on to the home builders. Home builders higher by 15% on the day. One of the better sectors in the market, one of the better areas of the market you could look at. I thought Whirlpool stood out, 29%, let's call it 30% to the upside. Toll Brothers, we happen to own that one, just a small position. We needed to bounce on that one. We got about a 40% gain there. This was the best performer in the sector today, so you want to make sure if you're invested in stocks like that, you want to see that they are outperforming if you're going to keep them. Lennar, 21% to the upside, and also Pulte Homes did well. 24%. One of these guys was doing drive-through closings on their houses. That was kind of interesting to see that they'll do whatever it takes to sell a house. Utilities up 10% on the day. This one's still very, very, very volatile. REITs as well. I'm lumping those two together. Those have been absolutely demolished here in the short term. This is known as a counter trend bounce, right? Just a little oversold counter trend bounce. Nasty. If you look at the ICF here, down over 30% in just the last 7 days. So a much needed bounce in that space if you happen to be playing along and wanting a bounce. Gold getting back to highs, but not too much going on there as far as being able to break highs. Now gold, think of it as how oil's going right now. Price of oil are lower. You've got spending reduced across the board for all the major oil companies, which means supply may be a little bit lower, or people are predicting that. With gold, you've got gold mining companies shutting down shop left and right. They're not drilling, or they're not mining for new gold. And because of that, you have people believing the price of gold will head higher on lower supply. So that's what you have there. A couple things in the news stock-wise. No. There you go. iRobot 10% higher on the day. They lowered their guidance going forward. They took away their guidance for everything else in the future. They just took away their full year guidance there, as did Twitter. If you look at Nordstrom, Nordstrom was 20% higher on the day. They've gotten rid of their dividends. They're going to stop buying back shares. They need the cash. CVX in the mix as well. They're going to cut their spending for the year 2020. They've already started, by the way, because of the low price of oil there. But they're going to keep their dividend. So that got more support today because they said the dividend is fine. We're not going to address that at the moment. And so looking pretty good there. If we look at the stocks in the S&P, you have 10 stocks above the 50-day moving average. Which is okay. They got 10 stocks above. That's 2%. We've been floating around the 2 to 4% number. I've been saying that every day. No new highs today. It's all right. They got a long way to go. But you had 4 new lows. Now, 4 new lows, that's interesting. You have, what we hit? 336 on March 13th was the biggest so far in the last 5 years that we've had in terms of the number of stocks hitting new lows, 336. So we only had 4 today. All right. I mean, that's a sign that at least things are bouncing and that it was also a broad-based rally. You had HollyFrontier, ticker symbol HFC, which is hovering near lows there, downgraded to $23 a share by Goldman Sachs. They were at 36. They were all the way up here. They went all the way down to 23, downgraded the stock. That's in the oil space, didn't do too good there today. Kimberly-Clark, extremely volatile. I can't believe some of the volatility on these staples, but you got 4.5%. To the upside after making a new low today. One of the REITs out there, Apartment Investment Management Group, hit new lows, demolished here in the short term. They withdrew their guidance. They're drawing down $300 million out of their credit lines. They need to. I mean, that's not shocking. And Crown Castle was the other one. Although it did hit new lows, closed off the lows there. That's one of those tech REITs that you see in the space there. All right, after hours here, you got Nike reporting earnings. Not too bad, 15% to the upside, and after hours up another 8%, trading at 78.30, right in there somewhere. So that's Nike. The good news there, sales online up 36%. The reason people get excited about that doesn't include the virus break here. That's before the virus came out that they were getting more online sales. Given that they've got stores closed everywhere, that's a good thing that you see people are willing to go online and shop before this big chaos here. So maybe that leads to better sales for them in the future. Probably going to comment on that in the conference call. They also said that 80% of their stores in China are now open, and they're very quickly getting to the 100% mark. So it's good news for them. You got Boeing in the news today. Boeing up 20% on the day. They basically said, we have other options. If the government won't help us out, we have other options. Good. Use the other options then. You know what I mean? Like if you have other options to sustain your business, why are we relying on the government? Let the government help small businesses. Let the governments help the families that are struggling out there. Maybe that's a better use of capital. I'm just saying. You know what I mean? If you're saying you've got other options, then let's take the other options. Okay, what do we have here? We got Paychex reporting earnings tomorrow and Micron Technologies reporting after the close. That will be the one that gets all the attention. Remember, the tax filing deadline is now July 15th. It was April 15th. Now it's July 15th. The deadline to contribute to your IRAs, Roth IRAs, things like that, is still April 15th. That doesn't change. I got that question no short of 50 times today. And so I'm just pointing it out. I'm not upset by that in any way. It is unfortunate that there's that confusion there, but you still have till April 15th to make that happen. So if you're doing that for 2019, make sure you get it done. If you're one of our customers here and you're going to make a deposit for 2019, it's the last item on the deposit screen. It says, where's the money coming from? Where do you want it to go? How much do you want to put in? When do you want it to go in? How often do you want to do it? And if you choose one time, the next question says, what year do you want to count this for? And if you choose 2019, everything will be good. All right. Yeah, I'll take a try here and see if I can answer some of your questions, if you have any, and then we'll wrap it up. I appreciate it. You went after some United there at that discount. Can't blame you. I'm not allowed to really make suggestions, and sometimes I get sort of clever trying to point out what is a discount or whatever. You got to make your own choice. I'm not allowed to tell the general public that. It's called a suitability rule, and I will adhere to it, SEC, so I'm following the rules. But if you're one of our customers, of course, I can say anything I want to you. But man, yeah, I can't blame you for United Airlines. Seeing a discount like that, how often does something like that happen? I mean, that's just intense there. Obviously, there's risk, and you get those sort of things. But man, risk reward, definitely in the investor's favor. I love it. Look into your eyes and tell me today is the bottom. Can't do that. I did mention yesterday that it sort of felt like yesterday's low was the bottom, but I had no way of knowing this was going to happen today. I couldn't have guessed it. Yep. And all this based on hopes of stimulus, because I think Chuck Schumer said that they're on the 2-yard line to getting this thing done, meaning they're about to score, everybody's going to be happy, but then nothing. Right? So if that stays that way and we don't see any sort of progress, you could very quickly see people freak out again and sell these positions or sell into this rally. Enrique, yep, everybody is safe and healthy. Thanks for asking. I appreciate that. I wish the same for you and everybody else, of course, as well. If you're at home, hunkered down and all that stuff. We're not closed down here for some reason. No issues here. Everybody's allowed to go pretty much anywhere besides the beach. So pretty interesting. You got some Occidental Petroleum. You got some Harley Davidson. That's an interesting pick. You got some Harley Davidson. It was a good day today. And it looks like you got Tapestry as well. All right, cool. Tapestry's trying. It's one of the weaker retail stocks out there. Yep. What's the source regarding the IRA contribution? The IRS. There is no guidance offered in terms of extending the Roth IRA or IRA deadlines. They don't actually specify to say, we've extended that as well, but there's no guidance to offer anything else differently. And so when the IRS offers guidance and then, of course, makes it official, you can do it. But there's no guidance on that at all, which means it's not even up for conversation at the moment. That could change, but as of now, that's where we're at. Yep. Aren't REITs at risk of not paying dividends if people are allowed to not pay rent for 3 months? REITs by law have to pay most of their income in the form of dividends, or they are not allowed to get that tax classification. Now, if they are not making a profit, that's a different story, and that has happened. But a REIT has to pay, I think it's 90%. 90% of their income has to be paid out in dividends. I could be off by 5%, but so that's the case there. Whatever income they do have, 90% of it's got to be paid out anyways. So you don't see REITs saying we're suspending dividends. If they say that, that means they have no income and it's not looking good generally as an investment. Yep. Cool. I love it there. All right, so I don't know. You know what I mean? I feel like today was a solid attempt at a bottom. I just think it needs to now coincide with a clean, clear, and substantial stimulus package. The Fed has done everything they can do. They've essentially, I saw, it was a funny joke about this, they've thrown the kitchen sink at the economy, and then the question was, if that doesn't work, what's bigger than the kitchen sink? So that's stimulus, right? You need stimulus from Congress there. So we'll see what happens there. We will see. I like it. You guys are all, I mean, I think you guys probably feel like I do. You saw the market bounce today and you're like, aw, come on, don't go too far. I don't know why I feel like that. I'm just contrarian in nature, I guess. Anyways, I appreciate you guys watching. I hope you enjoyed today. It was definitely a nice fresh of breath air to see the markets do something else So we'll see what goes from here. Of course, we'll be watching every single second of it. We'll be back tomorrow to do this all over again, as we do every day. So thanks for joining. If I helped you in some way, maybe you'll hit the subscribe button or check us out at jazzwealth.com. I appreciate it. Enjoy your day.
Hey, wait! Before you go watch one of our other great videos, have you had a chance to see our new FinTips videos? They focus on one topic at a time, covering investing, personal finance, and anything that can quickly help you with your dough. Best of all, we'll keep it real short, because we know time is money.
Why should you choose Jazz Wealth as your retirement or long-term investing service? Our portfolios are managed by us, not some faceless mutual fund manager. Our private classes will teach you everything about investing and getting your dough straight. Best of all, our fiduciary standard means your best interest comes before ours.